What if the United States did the unthinkable? Kidnapping the president of China and launching a direct military invasion would be one of the most extreme, dangerous, and devastating acts in modern history. This isn't just a movie scenario, it's a geopolitical simulation, exploring how far a conflict between the two most powerful superpowers on the planet could escalate. Would China respond with nuclear missiles? Would Russia and North Korea join the conflict? Would the world enter a third world war? Would the global order collapse within days? And above all, who would win, if anyone even could? In this video, we will explore this scenario step by step, from how the kidnapping could happen, to the first military moves, to the international reactions that could plunge the entire world into an unprecedented spiral of chaos. We will analyze strategies, alliances, weapons, economics, and politics in real time, as if it were happening today. This is not about taking sides, but about understanding how the pieces move on a global chessboard when someone makes a move that breaks all the rules. Get ready for a tense, unpredictable journey full of catastrophic consequences. This is What if the US kidnaps the president of China and invades the country? Imagine that during an international summit held on neutral ground, the president of China is intercepted by a covert US Special Operations Unit without warning, and under a SEAL-style operation, the Chinese leader is captured in a surgical strike, extracted by helicopter, and taken to a secret military base, possibly on Allied territory. Within minutes, the world finds out. Social media explodes, news outlets flash red headlines, and Washington remains silent. China enters a state of emergency. The Politburo calls for an urgent meeting. The People's Liberation Army goes on maximum alert, and nuclear and satellite defense systems are activated. The question is not whether it was a provocation. For Beijing, it's an unprecedented act of war. At the United Nations, chaos erupts. Some countries demand evidence, others remain silent, fearing retaliation. The Chinese ambassador directly accuses the US of state terrorism. Meanwhile, the White House issues ambiguous statements, justifying its actions as a preemptive response to an imminent global threat. No evidence is presented, just words. Financial markets tremble, oil prices spike, gold skyrockets. China freezes US assets and cuts diplomatic ties with several allied countries. Embassies in Beijing are evacuated. The kidnapping is no longer just a covert military operation. It's a political, economic, and diplomatic bombshell. Global stability shakes. What was once a veiled Cold War turns into an open hybrid war. And no one knows what the next move will be. While the world is still processing the kidnapping, the United States makes its next move. A lightning invasion against strategic targets in China. There is no prior warning. Cruise missiles fired from submarines and destroyers hit coastal military bases, radar systems, and command centers. Spy satellites and autonomous drones coordinate surgical strikes. The goal is not to occupy the country, but to destabilize its response capacity and send a clear message: total control. The Pentagon presents the operation as a preemptive action to protect world peace. US media repeats the official narrative. China was planning a massive cyber attack. There was evidence of a biological threat, and capturing the president was part of a mission to prevent global catastrophe. In reality, no one in the international community believes that narrative. Europe is divided. Some of the US's traditional allies demand answers. Others prefer to stay silent. In Asia, panic grows. Japan activates its defenses, Taiwan prepares for a possible crossfire attack, and India watches cautiously, evaluating how to benefit from regional chaos without getting too involved. Within hours, US forces breach Chinese airspace and waters. They bomb critical infrastructure, refineries, railways, and power plants. At the same time, they launch an information warfare campaign to spread confusion among the Chinese population, hacking social media and media networks and broadcasting contradictory messages. But there's a problem. China is not Iraq or Afghanistan. It has the world's largest army, hypersonic weapons, ballistic missiles, advanced tracking technology, and unshakable determination. Every US attack is returned with fire. Every provocation fuels a more brutal, coordinated response. The invasion has begun, but the ground they step on is a deadly trap. China doesn't waste time. In less than 24 hours, the People's Liberation Army mobilizes over 2 million soldiers. The coasts are lined with anti-ship artillery. J-20 fighter jets take off in formation from underground bases, and DF-21D missiles, nicknamed carrier killers, are aimed directly at the US 7th Fleet in the Pacific. The orders in all barracks are clear: resist, retaliate, and recover the president. The Chinese government activates its cyber defense systems and launches digital counterattacks that paralyze US power grids, airports, and banks. At the same time, nationalist messages are spread across the country. Sovereignty is non-negotiable. The enemy will pay dearly. Diplomatic ties are severed. US ambassadors are declared persona non grata, and all foreign tech platforms are blocked. Russia, seeing a strategic opportunity, closes ranks with China. Vladimir Putin condemns the US actions as imperialist terrorism and begins military exercises on Europe's western border. Iran offers logistical support and oil, and North Korea fires test missiles as a warning. A new axis of resistance against the West is activated. In Africa, Latin America, and Asia, countries economically dependent on China face a dilemma. Keep trading with Beijing or align with Washington. The world polarizes faster than it has since the Cold War. Trade routes are disrupted and a brutal economic war begins. The global economy starts to collapse. The yuan decouples from the dollar, China dumps US Treasury bonds, and Chinese factories halt shipments of key components, triggering an industrial crisis in the West. Multinationals panic. Wall Street freefalls. Oil surpasses $200 a barrel. Inside China, the initially confused population unites in patriotic resistance. Millions volunteer. State propaganda works like a well-oiled machine. Nationwide mobilization campaigns begin, including students, workers, and reservists. The message is clear. We will survive. We will win. And we will take back what was stolen. Meanwhile, Beijing launches its active defense strategy, not just to defend, but to strike back. Missiles are fired at US bases in Japan, Guam, and the Philippines. Chinese nuclear submarines disappear into the Pacific. The US expected a strong response, but not one this fast, coordinated, and lethal. The dragon has awakened, and it won't die quietly. The war between the United States and China is no longer a bilateral conflict. It transforms into a global cataclysm. The world's major stock exchanges collapse one by one. New York, London, Shanghai, Frankfurt, and Tokyo all record historic losses. Millions of jobs disappear within days. Companies go bankrupt, and ordinary citizens panic at the prospect of an unprecedented economic depression. global supply chains break down. From microchips to food, everything becomes scarce. Airlines cancel international flights, ports come to a halt, and major powers compete for basic resources. The world, so interconnected just yesterday, suddenly becomes fragile and divided. Small nations face famine, hospital collapses, and looting. The UN falls into total paralysis. The Security Council becomes a diplomatic battlefield where no consensus is possible. Meanwhile, NATO enters crisis. Countries like Germany, France, and Turkey show diverging stances. Some call for immediate mediation. Others hint at military backing for the US. The alliance begins to fragment as European leadership crumbles. Non-aligned countries like Brazil, India, and South Africa become key players on the new chessboard. Everyone wants to know, whose side will they take? The fate of millions could hinge on those decisions. Economic and diplomatic pressure on them is immense, and any misstep may be seen as betrayal by either bloc. And in the streets of the world, people protest. In the US, massive demonstrations demand an end to the conflict and the president's removal. In China, patriotic fervor turns into total mobilization. In Europe, citizens call for neutrality, fearing the old continent will once again become a battlefield. Meanwhile, nuclear-armed countries go on maximum alert. Strategic submarines are mobilized, bombers armed with warheads take flight, and launch protocols are updated. One mistake, one misread signal, and the planet could shift from conventional war to mutual assured destruction. The diplomacy of deterrence enters its most dangerous phase. The crisis is no longer just economic or military, it's existential. For the first time since 1945, humanity feels it's walking at the edge of the abyss. And every misstep takes us closer to the point of no return. Both sides know that crossing the nuclear line would be suicide. But as attacks, provocations, and casualties multiply, that line becomes increasingly thin. The United States moves 3 Ohio-class submarines into strategic positions in the Pacific. Each carries enough nuclear firepower to wipe an entire continent off the map. China responds by activating its nuclear triad: land-based missiles, strategic bombers, and stealth attack submarines. Both countries enter DEFCON 2, one step away from imminent launch. Then, one incident changes everything. A Chinese hypersonic missile accidentally strikes Guam, killing hundreds of US civilians. The Pentagon interprets it as a direct attack on national territory. The president meets in the emergency bunker. The cabinet is split. Some call for immediate retaliation, others demand an urgent diplomatic channel. For 36 hours, the world holds its breath. Nuclear technology, designed as a deterrent, becomes the center of a global nightmare. Air raid sirens blare in Tokyo, Seoul, Taipei, and Los Angeles. This is the most dangerous moment in modern history, and the worst still hasn't happened. This scenario, though extreme, reveals something deeply unsettling. The global balance is far more fragile than it seems. One reckless move, one action outside the rules, and the entire structure built to preserve peace could collapse in days. The kidnapping of China's president by the United States would not only be a war crime, it would be the spark for a chain of events the world could no longer control. From conventional war to nuclear threat, economic collapse to social destabilization, the consequences would be devastating for everyone, regardless of which side they're on. Beyond flags and borders, this simulation serves as a warning. In a nuclear, interconnected world, mistakes are no longer paid for with sanctions, but with human lives and lost generations. Peace is not just the absence of war. It is a fragile balance that requires diplomacy, restraint, and above all, responsibility. Because the next great war wouldn't be won. It would only be survived. If you found this scenario thought-provoking, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and let us know in the comments what other what if you'd like us to explore.